Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. The Puerto Rican Cultural Center and Peace Pledge Chicago hosted a panel discussion about issues of race and war held in January 2007. We'll see excerpts from each of the panel's 4 speakers in this next segment.
It is our responsibility to resist the injustices done by our government in our name.
The second form of racism is, of course, the famous ethnic cleansing campaign that took place in 1948, mostly in 1948. I don't know how many of you know about this history, but for Israel to be established as a state, it pretty much required the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian indigenous population, which is exactly what happened. Now, this doesn't mean that the Israeli and Jewish forces at the time who engaged in this ethnic cleansing necessarily hated the Palestinians or had contempt for them, although some did. But what it does mean is that they were utterly indifferent to their fate and what happened to them. And of course, David Ben-Gurion, the first Israeli prime minister, who's hailed as a hero in Israel, was the mastermind behind this ethnic campaign. For those of you who are interested in this issue, the latest book on this subject is by Ilan Pape, an Israeli historian from the University of Haifa. His book is entitled The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, and he doesn't mince his words in that book at all. The third area in which the racism manifests itself is, of course, the erasure of Palestinian history. For not only were Israeli leaders at the beginning of 1948 content with ethnically cleansing the Palestinians, they also made sure afterwards that no documented history of the Palestinians exists at all. So for those of you who have been to Israel or who are planning on going to Israel, you will notice that when you go to many of their national parks and forests, there are no placards or signs saying that beneath this forest there used to be such and such a Palestinian village. The entire history is completely erased. And of course, most Israeli apologists for the state of Israel continue to claim that no such ethnic cleansing happened, etc., etc.
We really have to deal with racism as something related to war. You remember what we have done to the Japanese in World War II. The Japanese were supposed to be stupid people, short people with thick eyeglasses who were brutal. They were always presented as the epitome of brutality. Well, but it so happens that we were the power which dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It wasn't the Japanese. So let's just bear all that in mind, okay? This is the only country in the world where Islam is really badly and openly marginalized. You know, we keep fighting here in the United States. I've been living in the United States over 40 years. We keep struggling to have people accept the idea that Islam is part of the Abrahamic tradition, right? We believe in Abraham. Abraham is not a Jewish prophet. To us, he is the father of nations, which indeed is the meaning of the term Abraham. Okay? Abraham, Sarah, Hagar, these are all part of the Islamic legacy. So how come nobody can really accept Islam as part and parcel of the human legacy of universal religion? Why? By the way, I'm not such a fanatic Muslim. I'm not even a Muslim. I'm a lapsed Muslim. I'm a humanist. And part of my humanism calls on me to respect any religion in front of me. I respect Judaism, I respect Christianity, and more importantly, I know that my religion is indebted to these two great religions.
It's most important that we understand that there's a poverty draft as well that unites many of our colleagues on the streets in Chicago and elsewhere across nationality lines. And I would like for us to pay attention to that. The same logic that brings us to oppose the war because it takes bread or butter off our tables is the same reason we should oppose adverse policies that instead of strengthening a true people's democracy in this country, actually gives us a packaging of democracy. For example, the Patriot Act. Most of us don't take time to really think about it unless you are in an oppressed foreign group, residential status. We don't see the full impacts of the Patriot Act. Moreover, we have the question of the Military Commissions Act. And the central question of the Military Commissions Act, going beyond the Patriot Act, is the question of habeas corpus. that affects us all, including all four of us on this panel tonight. We could be on my way home, stopped by federal authorities who would take me to a place undisclosed, and I'd be locked up forever.
Ever since 1898, the United States has treated Puerto Rico as a piece of property. We were made citizens in 1917, on March the 2nd, 1917, a few months before the United States entered the First World War. And we were made citizens. For what reason? So we could become the canon fathers of the U.S. imperial machine. And thus, since World War I, thousands upon thousands of Puerto Ricans have fought in every U.S. war. In the Iraq war right now, Puerto Rico is, out of 50 states in the Union and several territories, Puerto Rico's presence, military presence in Iraq is 10. In other words, imagine Puerto Rico in terms of population is probably in the middle. About 25 states or 30 states have more population than Puerto Rico, yet Puerto Rico has more people fighting in Iraq for the United States, a war of the US, and Puerto Ricans have never had the right to make any decision about questions of war or peace.
The pledge to resist. Not in our name.
Subcomandante Marcos wrote a little piece a few years called 7 Pieces of the Jigsaw Puzzle. And he spoke about the last piece being the pockets of resistance meeting the empire of the money bag. And I think that's exactly what I think we should be talking about, is those pockets of resistance.
Blood for oil.
I'm Andy Thayer, and you're watching Chicago Independent Television.
I see the soul of a nation, must be true, 'cause I've seen it on TV.
Burger, fries.
Value gun.
There's never been a better time to buy.
Nope, no tea.
Welcome back to Chicago Independent Television. Sometimes we find videos we like on the internet. In this one, we'll join in with peace activists who take direct action against pro-war Illinois Congressional Representative Mark Kirk.
Anti-war activists occupied the office of Illinois Republican Congressman Mark Kirk as part of an ongoing campaign of nonviolent civil disobedience aimed at ending the war in Iraq. For 2 hours, the head of Kirk's office listened to the demonstrators' pleas, prayers, and songs.
We're going to end this war. Reject the supplemental. We are going to end this war. Reject the supplemental. We are going to end this war. We're saying reject the supplemental. We are going to end this war. Together, together, we're going to end this war.
Eventually, the police came to evict the protesters.
Get my good side while you're doing that. We need you to leave here. That's the bottom line.
Iraq is occupied.
I understand.
We're part
I understand
of an
that, sir.
occupation project.
But you can't occupy this office
This
either.
office is occupied today.
Okay, so we have two alternatives. We can leave you here, or we can arrest you. And what would you like to do?
It's your call. We'll stay.
You'll stay? Okay. Then I think we just need a determination from staff and the kids.
The congressman's office decided to send the police away. We talked with the protesters as they settled in for what they thought would be an overnight stay in the congressman's office.
It's after office hours. The staff's gone home.
Yes, it's too bad. We were having fun here, too. Too bad they didn't join us.
Will you be here all night?
Well, it takes whatever it takes. The message isn't how long we stay. The message is Representative Kirk needs to respond. Our being here is not just to be here, but simply to say, Mr. Kirk, please give us an answer. We want you to vote no to this appropriation. That money will continue this war beyond 3 to 8 years, up to 3 years. It doesn't make sense. He's already voted against the continuation of the war and the effort to escalate it with more troops. Why not just say, honestly, I don't want to see this war continue. That's what we want to encourage him to do.
Now let me ask you, how long do you intend to stay? We'll stay until the resumption of business tomorrow, and I would say I expect business will not go as usual tomorrow, should we still be here when the office reopens. I'm not sure I understand what that means. We'll have to see.
Later that night, after our camera left and when there were no reporters around, the police came, put the occupiers in handcuffs, and ejected them from the building.
You've been watching Chicago Independent Television, a project of the Chicago Independent Media Center Video Collective. The Independent Media Center is a growing worldwide network of media producers, journalists, citizens, and activists, working to put the media in the hands of everyday people and away from corporate and commercial interests. To learn more, visit our website at chicago.indiemedia.org. There you can find out about upcoming Chicago area events and how to get involved in making your own media, including how to help make this very TV show. Thanks for watching. See you next time.